Picture this, the United Nations is brand new. It's the late 1940s, and almost immediately, a huge fight breaks out. Not with armies or anything, but over something way more fundamental. Who gets to join the club? This is the story of how the world's highest court ended up writing the rulebook for the UN's front door.
And this was the final word from the International Court of Justice. Its impact was massive. In just one sentence, the court laid down the law. When you're deciding on a new member, you have to stick to the script. No adding your own special conditions. But, getting to this nice, clean ruling, well, that was the result of a super messy political battle.
And get this, the decision was nowhere near unanimous. We're talking a 9-6 split. I mean, for the world's highest court, that is incredibly close. It just goes to show you how deeply divided the world was on this. This wasn't some minor legal squabble. This was a fundamental fight about power at the brand new UN.
Okay, so that brings up a pretty big question, right? Why did this even have to go to court in the first place? Why did the UN's own General Assembly have to basically send out an SOS to the judges over at The Hague? That's the mystery we're about to solve.
And here it is. This is the actual document that kicked the whole thing off, sent in late 1947. Basically, the General Assembly was stuck. Countries, especially on the Security Council, were blocking new applicants left and right, and it had nothing to do with whether these new countries were qualified and everything to do with Cold War politics. So they turned to the court for what's called an advisory opinion, which is basically asking, hey, can they do that? Are they allowed to just make up their own rules?
So the question the court was asked really boiled down all that dense legalese into two pretty simple ideas. First, the big one. Can you add any extra conditions at all? And second, the really specific problem they were dealing with, can a country get into political horse trading? Saying, hey, I'll vote for your guy if you vote for mine? This was the exact tactic that was grinding everything to a halt.
So the moment the court took the case, man, the floodgates just opened. This wasn't something that was going to be decided in some quiet, dusty room. Oh no. The court sent out an invitation to every single UN member state, basically saying, what do you think? And trust me, they had a lot to say.
And you know what's amazing? Things moved fast. I mean, really fast. In less than 6 months, the court pulled off this massive international consultation, held public hearings, and dropped a landmark opinion. From that first request in November 47 to the final verdict in May 48, the whole thing was just a whirlwind.
And different countries had their own way of getting involved. Take the Philippines, for example. They sent in this really detailed written statement laying out all their legal arguments. France, on the other hand, they went a different route. They sent a representative to The Hague to argue their case face-to-face with the judges.
And the list of countries that weighed in? Wow. It shows you this was a truly global issue. You had the big Cold War heavy hitters, the USA and the USSR, right there in the mix. But you also had nations from all over Europe and Asia. The whole world was watching this because everyone knew the answer would shape what the United Nations would be for decades to come.
So, how in the world did the court land on that 9-6 decision? Well, they did what courts do best. They went straight to the source material. This whole massive international case, it all hinged on how you read one single paragraph in the UN Charter, Article 4.
Yep, it all boiled down to this, Article 4, Paragraph 1. Now, the majority of the judges, the 9 who voted in favor, they looked at this and saw a totally complete, self-contained rule. They argued that when it says membership is open to all other peace-loving states, which, that means if a country checks those boxes, that's it. They're eligible. End of story.
And the court laid it out so clearly. They broke it down into these 5 specific conditions. You have to be a state. You got to be peace-loving. You have to accept the Charter's rules. You need to be able to carry them out. And you need to be willing to carry them out. That's it. That's the whole checklist.
And this right here is the absolute key to the whole ruling. The judges used the word exhaustive. Now, what does that even mean? It means that list of 5 things, it's not just a starting point. It's the whole shebang. It's the beginning, the middle, and the end of it. You can't just tack on a 6th condition like, and they also have to be my political ally, or, and we'll only let them in if we get our friend in too.
So that led the court right to the second, more specific part of the question. What about that whole horse trading thing, linking one state's admission to another's? The court said nope. That's what they called an extraneous condition. It has absolutely nothing to do with whether the applicant is peace-loving or able and willing. So under the Charter, it's not allowed. Simple as that.
Okay, so what's the big deal here? Why are we talking about a legal opinion from over 75 years ago? Well, it's because it set up this core tension that's still at the heart of the UN today, that constant tug-of-war between the rule of law and raw political power.
At the end of the day, the court sent a really powerful message. The UN Charter isn't just a friendly suggestion. It's a binding legal document. That means that even for the most powerful groups, like the Security Council, the rules actually matter. Their power isn't infinite. It has limits. And those limits are spelled out, right there in the Charter. They can't just make it up as they go.
And you don't have to take my word for it. Here are the court's own words. They knew that bodies like the Security Council are political. I mean, of course they are. But, and this is the crucial part, being political doesn't give you a get-out-of-jail-free card to just ignore the law. The law, the Charter, comes first. It was this incredibly bold statement about what the UN was supposed to be.
And all of this leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? The court drew a line in the sand way back in 1948, but has that line held up? Think about it. Today, whenever a new state applies for membership, or when you see a Security Council veto that seems to have nothing to do with those 5 conditions in Article 4, well, you're hearing the echo of this exact debate. How much is truly governed by law, and how much is just about the political will of the most powerful countries? That's definitely something to chew on.